Now let's move to the next important topic, SQL injection. This is an attack where an attacker tries to insert a malicious SQL commands through the input provided to a web application. There is a simple question here to understand how improper input handling can allow the unauthorized access to database resources. So here, SQL is used to create and manage databases. In SQL injection, the attacker insert SQL queries through application input and may be able to read, modify, or delete database informations. Now, let's see how SQL injection works. Normally, a user enters information through a web form, but an attacker can use the same input field to insert unexpected SQL comments. So, for example, a condition such as or 1 is equal to 1 can make a condition true and may cause the application to return more records than intended. Here, the attacker generally looks for a web page that accept input such as login or search web pages and checks how the input is handled by the application. Here we can see some examples of inputs used to test whether a web page is vulnerable to SQL injection. Poorly handled inputs can sometimes allow login bypass or unauthorized database access. The next slide introduces tools used for injection, SQL injection, and help us to understand how these invulnerabilities can be identified. We can then have blind SQL injection. In this case, the attacker cannot directly see the database result, so information is inferred from the changes in the application response. To, to prevent SQL injection, application should validate and sanitize user inputs, restrict input length, avoid displaying database errors to user, and properly separate application and database systems. So finally, the PPT introduced SQL block, which works as an SQL injection protection feature by monitoring SQL statements and blocking disallowed statements. So the main takeaway is that secure input handling is essential for protecting databases. Thank you.